Amid continued stalemate in Congress over immigration, President Biden has allowed hundreds of thousands of new immigrants into the United States by significantly expanding the use of humanitarian parole programs for people escaping war and political turmoil around the world. The measures introduced over the past year to offer refuge to people fleeing Ukraine, Haiti, and Latin America offer immigrants the opportunity to fly to the United States, quickly secure work authorization, provided they have a private sponsor to take responsibility for them. As of mid-April, 300,000 Ukrainians legally arrived in the United States under various programs, a number greater than all the people from around the world admitted through the official U.S. refugee program in the last 5 years. By the end of 2023, 360,000 Venezuelans, Cubans, Nicaraguans, and Haitians are expected to gain admission through the same similar private sponsorship initiative introduced in January to stem the unauthorized crossings at the southern border. More people than who were issued immigrant visas from these countries in the last 15 years combined. In the last 15 years, the United States has not accepted 360,000 people from Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti. This year they will. According to a new report from the Pew Research Center, the Biden administration has also greatly expanded the number of people who are in the United States with temporary protected status, a program Donald Trump sought to terminate. About 670,000 people from 16 countries have had their protections extended or have become newly eligible since Biden took office. That's 670,000 people under TPS, 360,000 Venezuelans, Cubans, Nicaraguans, and Haitians, making that 1 million. Another 300,000 Ukrainians. President Biden, by the stroke of his pen, without any act of Congress, was able to make legal 1.3 million people, or will, in the year 2023. Altogether, these temporary humanitarian programs will become the largest expansion of legal immigration in the last 40 years. In adopting the programs for Latin Americans, the Biden administration was responding to widespread criticism over the chaotic situation on the southern border, which saw 1.5 million unauthorized crossings last year. It bypassed years of failed attempts in Congress to legalize undocumented workers already in the country or to make more visas available to employers who wish to bring in temporary workers. The new parole programs are temporary. They expire after 2 years unless they are going to be renewed, but they have already changed arrivals, people coming to the United States. The migrants who were admitted to the country after flooding the border last year have not been allowed to work, not at least for at least 6 months, until after filing their asylum cases. As a result, many have wound up in shelters in cities like New York, which have struggled to accommodate them. These new humanitarian parole programs, in contrast, requires immigrants to first have a sponsor in the United States. This sponsor will take financial responsibility for each of the people that they bring to the U.S. And in return, the United States expeditiously will offer a work permit upon their entry. Employers with worker shortages are welcoming these new arrivals as an important new labor pool. The administration's goal was to discourage the hundreds of thousands of migrants who are arriving at the border by allowing people to apply in a more orderly fashion from their home countries. And after the programs began, overall Border Patrol apprehensions at the border reached their lowest level in 2 years, led by an enormous decline in Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans trying to cross the border. Average weekly apprehensions declined to 46 people in late February from a high of 1,200 or more just in the first few weeks of January. 20 Republican-led states, including Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and Arkansas, have sued in federal court to suspend the parole program for Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, arguing that it will admit 360,000 new immigrants a year from countries and burden states with additional costs for healthcare, education, and law enforcement. But we just finished saying that immigrants are a net plus. Year after year, it has been demonstrated simply by counting the tax revenue received by the United States government that undocumented immigrants are a net plus. Documented immigrants are a net plus to the U.S. government and actually help supplement the costs for the health care of Americans and help supplement the costs for the health care of for education of Americans and help supplement the costs for law enforcement to better protect and serve us, if you believe that's what they do. And the programs have attracted broad support in the business community in many conservative states like North Dakota, where the oil industry has been struggling to rig operators in the region's notoriously punishing weather. The State Petroleum Council is recruiting people to act as sponsors for new Ukrainian immigrants who can be put to work immediately. And in Utah, where Derek Miller, president of the Salt Lake Chamber, says the state has 100,000 jobs going unfulfilled. You want to get a job and you have a work permit? Go to Utah. They have 100,000 jobs they can't fill. A report last week from FWD.US, a bipartisan pro-immigration group, estimated that about 450,000 immigrants who entered the United States on parole programs from Afghanistan, Ukraine, and Latin American countries were filling jobs in industries facing critical labor shortages, including construction, food service, healthcare, and manufacturing. Humanitarian parole has been used in the past. The authority granted by Congress to the executive branch in 1952 expedites admission of people who do not qualify under established immigration categories. President Eisenhower, he was a Republican. He used parole authority to allow 15,000 refugees to enter the United States after the Hungarian Revolution of 1956. Parole was used to admit 690,000 Cubans by President Carter and 360,000 refugees from Southeast Asia after the fall of Saigon. Over the last several administrations, some of the most consequential immigration policies have resulted from presidents exercising their discretion for immigration, including former President Barack Obama's executive action to create the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, DACA, which gave young undocumented immigrants work permits and a reprieve from deportation. Trump used his authority to ban travel to the United States from a list of very targeted countries, if you remember the shithole countries that he said. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.